Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is another episode of Dadvice TV. Now, most people hear the word dialysis and think life gets smaller. Christina and Michael prove the opposite. Christina is legally blind and has faced transplant rejections, has done PD, and now does home hemodialysis, and they're still traveling, living big, and showing what's possible. In this interview, they break down the exact strategy that helped them take control. Plus, Christina shares what helped her feel better day to day, including Renadyl, a probiotic made for kidney patients, and all the other kidney-friendly supplements that her doctor recommended for her. Now, if you need some hope and real-life tactics, this is the show for you. Let's jump in.
All righty. So, when I was 12 years old, I tried out for the volleyball team and I actually made it. And so they required a sports physical. So I went to the doctor, and halfway through the physical, they came in and they're like, "Hey, you got a kidney problem." And so they said I had to go to a specialist. I did that and we did a biopsy and I found out I had a kidney disease. At that time, they didn't know what it was. They didn't know how it worked. They didn't know anything about it, just a kidney disease. So from there, life kind of went on like normal. I remember asking multiple times my doctor saying, "Hey, is there anything I can do to prevent kidney failure?" Because I really didn't want to ever have to experience it. And he just kept saying, "No, no, just go on with your life." And so I did that. When I was 22, I actually got pregnant. And during that pregnancy, I developed what's called preeclampsia, or also known as toxemia. And basically, from what I understand, it's when your body's allergic to the placenta. And so you actually hold a ton of fluid on your body. And I kept going to my doctor saying, "Hey, something's wrong. Like, this is not normal." I had like a month or two where I gained like 50 pounds a month. And it was insane. So I went to my doctor and he kept just saying, "No, you're fine, you're fine." Well, on September 20th of 2004, I woke up in the morning and I couldn't see anything. I was completely blind. And
Oh,
so I re- I remember I literally got down on the floor and I crawled to the phone, and I crawled to find the phone, and I called my parents and my dad answered. And so I was like, "Hey dad, where's mom?" And he's like, "Oh, she's in the shower." And for I thought I had done something myself to cause my eyesight to have problems. And so I was embarrassed to tell my dad because I didn't want him to think I was dumb and I had done something. And so
uh-huh.
I just said, "Okay, thanks, dad." So I found another ride to my doctor's office. I went in and he basically told me, "I think you're dehydrated. You need to go to the hospital for fluids." So I did. We were heading over to the hospital. I got there and I remember when I was signing in, I remember signing my name, and the first part of my name I could see signing it, but then the rest of my name was just gone. I couldn't see anything. And it kind of kept coming in and out, and it was just really strange. Well, they put me in a wheelchair and they were pushing me to my room, and what's crazy is I end up having seizures right there in the middle of the hallway.
Ooh.
And so everyone just came running. They took me in for emergency C-section. And I was so lucky that my little baby girl, she was
Oh,
born that day. And she was born 3 pounds, 12 ounces. And I had no idea I had given birth. After I actually gave birth to her, they kept me on some really strong medication. And so I was actually hallucinating quite a lot after I gave birth. And they didn't come in until about a week later, and that's when they let me know that my daughter, they had fed her too soon and she had got infection in her stomach because she hadn't grown any intestines. So they were going to life flight her to a different hospital. And what's really cool is she ended up having a colostomy bag for about 6 months. And then they went back in and her intestines had grown, which is just
oh,
amazing. Our bodies are so incredible, right?
yep.
I know, it's amazing. But so they went back in, did a reconnect, and now she's wonderful. So
Oh,
she
that's
lived,
great.
she's now 21, which is so crazy to even say that.
Mhm.
But But so anyway, I was still at the hospital and they didn't know what to do with me. So they actually kicked me out of the hospital and they literally made me leave in my gown. The nurse told us, told me and my mom, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to help you. You just need to go home. And so up until that point, they kept telling me, like, I kept asking them, why don't you turn on the lights? Why didn't you turn on the lights? And they kept saying, the lights are on, they're on, you just can't see it. And so in my mind, I couldn't understand that I would be blind, but
Hmm.
I had kind of justified it thinking there was a natural disaster that had happened. And maybe they didn't know how to tell me I had lost everything and we had no power. And so that's kind of the theory I was going on. And that day, I walked out of the hospital in my hospital gown with my mom. We were arm in arm and we took like 3 steps out of the hospital. And I remember just stopping. And I was like, Mom, is the sun up? And she was like, oh, yeah, honey, it is a beautiful, clear day. And she starts explaining it. And all I'm thinking in my mind is, oh my gosh, I feel the sun. I know the sun's out, but I can't see anything. And that's
Oh,
when like reality cued in and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck have I done?" And so I went home and that night I ended up having more seizures in my bed. And I was very fortunate. They took me by ambulance to a different hospital. So that was
very
great.
good.
Yeah, I know. I know. And that time, the seizures were real legit. So I ended up biting my tongue off and it was literally hanging on by a thread. And that was literally one of the hardest things is trying to eat food around a tongue that is literally in half. And that was hard. But
Oh,
yeah, it was crazy.
So they called in your nephrologist.
Yep. So they called in my nephrologist, and when he came in, he immediately put me on IV Lasix, and they literally took a orange Home Depot bucket, put it next to my bed, put my catheter in it. I lost 97 pounds in 1 week, and the following week I lost
wow.
36 pounds.
That's all
Yeah.
liquid
Yes. Yes. It was
fluids
all
that
this
you were
chocolate fluid.
carrying. Wow.
And you
Yeah.
were in kidney failure too, right?
No, I had it at this point. My hypertension is through the roof, and it's all my kidney disease is being ramped up. And so we're trying to get my blood pressure under control, which we can't do for the life of us. I was literally in the 200s over like 170. And that was like become my normal. And it was just so much was happening and we were just trying to handle everything and it just seemed so overwhelming at the time. But so after I lost all the weight, which the funny thing was hearing my family members explain that I was the shrinking woman, because every day they'd come, I was like 20 pounds down. And so
Yeah.
they would just freak out. Every day it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So that part was kind of cool and fun.
And you needed to have a bunch of them tested.
My siblings. So yeah, so I knew my disease was ramped up, my blood pressure was going through the roof. We couldn't maintain it. And so they were like, hey, we need to talk transplant. And so for
Hmm.
me, almost all the focus was on transplant because I'm in Utah and I have 8 siblings. So I have 8 sets of kidneys running around.
Yeah. Possible donors right there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm like, hey, well, I'll just go get a sibling, I got backup. But so I ended up they told me to ask my brothers because they have stronger, larger kidneys, apparently. And so I asked 3 of my brothers and they got tested, and 2 of them were perfect matches. And so they kind of duked it out together because they both really wanted to do it. And my oldest brother Brian ended up giving me the kidney. So on December 9th of 2008, it was an amazing gift I got from my big brother. I got my first transplant. And at that time, I remember joking with everyone and saying I got a drive-through kidney because it seemed so simple to get that kidney after everything I had gone through to have my daughter. And then right after I have my daughter to get custody papers and then fight to prove. And that's probably the best gift I ever received was custody papers right after I gave birth because I couldn't wallow in my own self-pity. I couldn't be sad about what's going on. I had to step up. I had to prove I could be a mom. And it was the best gift I ever received. And so I got that kidney, and we I just kind of it was time to just go on with my life. Kidney was behind me. Like, they kept telling me I would get 30 years out of my brother's kidney. And so I wasn't looking back. So I went on with life and forgot all about it.
Now,
Well,
quick question. Did you go on dialysis at all before getting that transplant? Or was there enough kidney function you were able to get by until you got that transplant?
I was so close. I ended up doing a month and a half of dialysis before I got the transplant, just because we wanted me to be as strong as possible for the actual surgery.
And you went
And
into a center to do that?
yes, yep, I went
Okay.
into a center, and yep, I went, and at that point, my dad actually got to go in with me because this was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he came in with his laptop and we watched Bonanza. I told him, I said, not only do I have to do dialysis, but now I got to watch Bonanza. Like, this
Oh.
is horrible. Yeah, but so my dad was wonderful. But yeah, so I went on with life like normal. At about a year, I went in and got one of my labs done, and they called me and said, "Hey, we need you to get in here now." And so I went in, and they let me know I was fully rejecting. And
Oh.
so we bumped up the steroids, bumped them up really high. I did high dose steroids for about a year and a half, trying to save my brother's kidney. And I got moon face. I got the buffalo hump,
Mm-hmm.
which is horrible. I volunteered at my daughter's school. She was in second grade when this happened. And we were making little gingerbread houses out of milk cartons. And this little girl, she came up to me and she says, "I like your face." And I said, "Thank you." And she goes, "Is that hard or soft?" And I was like, "Well, it's just a face." And she was like, "Well, you look like Mrs. Claus." And she ran off. So I decided that day I would stop volunteering. Because
Oh.
maybe the kiddos did not quite understand it. Yeah, so I did fight that, and unfortunately I could not save that kidney, and I went on dialysis. And so it was just immediate go in center. There were no other options, there was no explanation. At that time I had heard like some random PD, and so I asked my doctor, "Hey, can I do this PD?" And he says, "No, you're blind, you can't do that." And so I just took him at his word, because that's what you're kind of taught to do when you grow up. And so I went on from there, and I did 5.5 years in center dialysis. And those years were the absolute hardest years of my life. I was a single mom. So for me, dialysis, like everyone knows, you go on dialysis, by the end of it, you feel horrible. You feel worse than you even did when you went in. And you have to go home and you have to recover. And that recovery time, it can take up to 8 hours to fully recover after dialysis.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time for that. When I got home from dialysis, I had to walk a mile to my daughter's school to get her from school because I'm not driving. So we'd walk right back home and then say, of course, I was the mom who put her in everything because I didn't want her to say she had a sick mom and she couldn't do anything. So then it was walk a mile the other direction to soccer practice. And then I'm basically under a tree trying to recover. And she's out there playing, and then I'm barely getting home. And then you got dinner, you got homework, you got shower time, just so many things, and keeping up, maintaining at home. And so those 5.5 years, like I got no fun during those. And I was in my 20s. I watched all my friends
Oh.
get married, go on trips, go on vacations, like celebrate so many things. And we weren't celebrating. We were
Um,
barely surviving.
and then you got that call again.
I got that amazing call that, and you're probably wondering, why didn't I take my other perfect donor? Well, they were thinking that maybe this happened the first time because of it being a living donor, and they were hoping that with a cadaveric transplant I'd have better luck, because at
Yep.
this time I'm still not diagnosed in any way. And so I got that kidney May 7th of 2016, and at that time I decided my life was no longer on pause. I'm going to push play and I'm going to start living. So that year I took my daughter to Disneyland, and it was just the two of us. We went on a family vacation, and we were normal. I didn't have to find a dialysis center. I didn't have to hope they would fit me in. I didn't have to worry. I just went and enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my daughter. She was 10 years old around this time. And so I told her, hey, I think I'm going to start dating. How do you feel about that? And she was like, yeah, I think it's time, Mom. It's about time. And so, so a few weeks later, she came up to me and she says, hey, Mom, I just wanted to let you know you have a date next Friday.
Yeah.
Wait,
And
wait.
I was like, what?
Your
I was like,
daughter hooked the two of you up?
wait, you have to
Pretty much.
listen to this. So I was like, what are you talking about, honey? And she goes, I've been talking to a guy on Facebook for you.
Yeah, and I had no idea. So
I'm thinking, I'm seriously thinking, like, oh my gosh, honey, you're talking to a creeper. Like, that's not how it works. And so I had her read me all of these messages, and I don't know how, but this guy was like genuinely nice and he was sweet. He didn't say anything harmful or anything. And so I was like, maybe I'll continue talking to him. So I did. And that Friday he called me and he says, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. My daughter really wants to come. And I was like, hey, wait, I have full custody of my daughter. I'll bring her. And that's when I found out he had full custody of his daughter. And so that day, I went out to the car, and most people don't realize when you're sick, there are so many days where you just fall thinking, I'm never going to be a wife. I'm never going
Mhm.
to be a partner. I'm never going to be like other people. I'm always going to be broken. And that day I went out, I hopped in the car and I look over at this adorable, cute man. And I look in the back and I see this girl that looks just like me. And instantly it was like, she's mine. Like I just loved her. And so I fell in love with his daughter. And so we kept dating. And that guy ended up being
that was me. And yeah, we just started dating, and luckily the kids got along so great that my daughter actually moved in before I did. And in order to see my daughter, I actually had to come over here. So it worked out amazing. So
yeah, yeah.
That's
It ended up
awesome.
working. Yeah, so basically, and it's crazy because I like to say our both our daughters, they really hooked us up.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
So
that
yeah, we
is
started
awesome.
dating. We started, we just started having fun. Um, I grew up in a house where I had a handicapped sister, and my mom was very, very proactive. She was a huge advocate for her. There was nothing that you couldn't tell my mom that she couldn't have her daughter do, because she was going to have her do it. And
Yep.
that was kind of my whole thing coming in was, one, she's freaking hot. So, I mean, it's obvious of why. But two, she wanted to experience all of these things, and she was always told, no, you can't, you're blind, no, you can't. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, hell with that. If you want to drive a truck, let's get up into the mountains, I'll put you in the driver's seat. And so she's driving a truck. I mean, it's just doing all those fun things that we both actually needed, and but
shortly after though we started dating is when I found out that my kidney was rejecting again.
Oh,
And so yeah, I know. And so, of course, my first thought is if I tell this man that I'm sick, he's going to bail just like the last one did. But he didn't. And I had to tell him because I did choose to fight that really hard. And we did about a year and a half of medications. I did chemo. I woke up with a chunk of my hair on the pillow. And so I took my girls and we went and cut it all off. And it was all spiked on the top and it was awful. But
and I had
we did it.
sympathy hair loss, as you can see. So
there you go.
That's when he was
Very
I was
good.
being very supportive.
So supportive of you.
So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, some of those meds, they were so expensive that an armed guard
Oh,
had to deliver some of them. And I actually accredit her kidney failure to us getting married and engaged and all that stuff, because our dates were in the hospital. She'd be hooked up to an infusion, kind of like dialysis, but she was hooked up to infusions, and we would just sit and talk and joke and laugh. And you know, I'm extremely sarcastic. I'm joking all the time, and that's when I learned real quick that my job was just to make her laugh and have fun throughout this process, because there was enough crap going on that she had enough people telling her negative, and
yep.
it just kind of we just kind of fell in love at the hospital.
And
But
at that point, though, is when I was allowed to see a bit of a different perspective with him coming in the picture, because I got that perspective of his mom fighting for his sister, and I got to talk to this beautiful woman that just literally changed so much for us that came behind. And i i I learned so much from her, and I learned that yes, doctors make mistakes, they're human, and so you need to help them just as much as they need to help you, and you need to say, hey, what med are you giving me?
yeah,
Because they just gave somebody else a med, and it doesn't hurt to help them out. And I started seeing things in a lot different perspective. And unfortunately, I was not able to save that kidney.
yeah.
And we did have to get that kidney. Oh, we had to get that kidney removed, just like I actually had to get the first transplant removed as well. And this time, though, we knew it was coming. So we planned ahead, and we started looking online, and we found out what PD was. And I was like, no way am I going back in center. I was a zombie. I
Mhm.
cannot live that life anymore. And so
No, what?
PD had to work.
Well, and PD, if people don't know what that is, it's peritoneal dialysis. It's actually a catheter that goes in your stomach and it exchanges fluid and all that stuff. So
Yeah. So I wanted to do it. And so I went to nephrologists, and I had multiple nephrologists tell me, you can't do it, you're blind. So I finally went back to my childhood doctor, and I broke him down, and I was just like, hey, you're teaching me. And I was like, just teach me how to do it. I'm doing it anyways. And so he did. And we thought outside the box, and we came up with this method. Like during PD, you have to be able to make sterile connections with
Mhm.
lines. And so it's got to be a perfect connect every time, which I can't do with my vision. But what I can do is hold those lines. I can feel and line up my pinkies on my fingers and roll it. And every single time, it's a perfect fit. And so we started thinking outside the box, and I went home on PD and I set it up. I broke it down all by myself. And
well, and starting dialysis, she didn't want to stop living and having fun too. So it was one of those, okay, how are we going to keep doing what we're doing?
Yep.
Camping, traveling, having fun, all that stuff. And that's where, we
Having
started doing
pets.
having pets, having, just pretty much living a normal life. Did we have to modify it a little bit with solar panels and batteries and having to run a machine up in the mountains? Yeah, but it was just one of those, we were going to make it happen.
yeah, and so together we always tried to find the simplest solution possible.
Mhm.
And so while we were doing this during PD, he's online asking questions. Hey, can we do this? She did PD on a motorcycle yesterday. Could we have done this and this and all these questions? And they're like, oh my gosh, you were giving people false hope. And so that's when he started.
Well, I didn't start it. You were still doing PD.
Oh, I'm still doing
And so
yeah.
we ended up getting engaged on PD.
Getting
We got
married.
married on PD. I'm sure you guys will see some of our social media. You can see a wedding picture. She's got a PD catheter sitting underneath it.
And
We actually, yeah, we did PD on a honeymoon. I mean, it was just one of those, we just kind of lived on with life. But the bad thing with peritoneal dialysis is you never know how long it's going to last.
Mhm.
And hers unfortunately started failing.
So I did home PD for 3 years. And I'm very proud to say that as a legally blind chick, I got no infections during that time. So very cool. But and truly, like, with how I felt on PD, there's a very big difference about how you feel in center and how you feel on PD. There's a very dramatically different effect it has on your body. And when you're lower and slower with that dialysis, you
Mhm.
feel like a totally different person.
And doing this, like, we didn't have hardly any social media presence at all. And I just kind of posted this picture of her doing dialysis, PD dialysis, on the back of a motorcycle because we got stuck in traffic. And I mean, was it the ideal situation? No, but it's life.
And we had
So
Yep.
come up with this bag that
mhm,
had absolutely everything we needed for a
yeah,
manual exchange. And
and
so that's what we did. We pulled over and we did what we had to do.
and it kind of went a little viral. So there was like a little bit of, hey, what are you guys doing? And, just kind of exchanging just a little bit here and there. But so PD failed.
PD failed. I found out I had abdominal adhesion. So that was no longer working. And so that's when it's time for hemo. And I was very lucky that I had heard about hemo just months earlier, home hemo. And so I told them, okay, get me in. I want to go home now.
See, and doing this is where I had to step in. And I mean, I was always supportive, but this was her treatment.
Yep.
And when hemo had to happen, I had to become a live boss. So during this process, PD's failing. She's getting very, very sick. And we are I'm switching to nights. We're starting the training of home dialysis, but she's having, some medical issues. She's getting extremely sick. And I mean, you can see me. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I'm bald. I'm covered in tattoos. And we're just trying to find answers. We are
Mhm.
trying to find answers to every single thing that's happening to her because it was always, oh, we don't know why this is happening. Or, yeah, that can happen. And there was so many things of, well, why are you telling me the answers to this stuff after it's happened? So I told her, okay, if I'm going in on this, I am going to start a Facebook group. And because at this process, I'm trying to find answers because I'm going in groups going, hey, we're doing this on PD, we did this and this. How can I do this on hemo? How can I do hemo dialysis up in the mountains? And I was actually being kicked out of groups because a lot of people were saying, hey, you're giving way too much false hope. You can't keep doing this. And I was like, and I sat it down. I'm like, okay, well, then I'm going to start my own group.
And I
Yep.
told him that I wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So
Do whatever you need and get whatever support you need. But and at that time, I was very secretive about what I was going through. There were things I didn't even tell my siblings that I was going through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we started that, and like I said, I switched to nights. So we did training during the day. I'd go to work at night, and we'd lay down in bed after treatment and all that stuff, and I'd just be typing on my phone because the 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 group just kind of exploded overnight of who the heck are these people. And because I'm documenting all of the training, because that was one of the biggest things is there was no video showing real life of all this stuff. And so and I'm just in bed. I'm like, hey, what do you do about this? Hey, what do you do about this? And we actually had another blind dialysis patient reach out and was asking all of these questions. And I'm asking her, going, hey, with your site, what do you do about this? And so she finally realized that the group was helping all of these people.
Mhm.
And so I put her in contact with this girl named Alyssa. She was pregnant. She was freaking out. She was told that she had to terminate her pregnancy. She was the blind one. And we actually got her in contact with another pregnant lady on the group. And they actually exchanged information. But this is where she started becoming part of the group.
And yeah, it blew my mind that these two women were both told to go and terminate their pregnancies, but
Oh,
together they were able to support each other through it. And believe it or not, they had their children 4 days apart. And I was in the hospital having a horrible situation during that. And that was my motivation is I knew I had to go see those babies.
And this is where we started having the care partner aspect of all of this too. That during this time, it was extremely stressful on my side as well.
mhm.
I'm working an extremely hard job. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I'm hanging out for aircrafts, sweating my butt off, and then having to come home and do dialysis on Christina. And I'm burning the candle on both ends. And it's amazing how I've got some very supportive supervisors and bosses, but it's amazing how quick it turns almost overnight of, oh, there's Mike, he's always late, or why is he always falling asleep in the break room, or
Yeah.
you quit, you're having to balance this life. And like I said, I had some amazing supervisors to help me through it, but I had we were doing this for about a year, and she could tell how hard this was.
He was so ran down, and he was a zombie of himself. And that's when I knew home hemo was amazing, but I had heard about Nocturnal, and I had heard that Nocturnal can actually be equivalent to a deceased donor kidney. And I of course I want everything that's going to help me live my life better and live longer. And so I said, sign me up. So we switched to Nocturnal.
Yep. And during this time, if you guys know about dialysis, you do it off of fistula. She did dialysis off of fistula. That failed. She did dialysis on a graft. That ended up failing. So then she ended up doing dialysis on a CVC catheter. And that was one of the weird things too, is when PD failed, they immediately told Christina again, no, you can't do this because you're on a catheter. And it was, one of those things that my mom kind of taught us was you always ask the question 3 times, especially with medical. The first time you're going to get that default answer of no, absolutely not, you can't do this. The second time they may think about it, and the third time was actually me going behind her back, and I actually walked in with the doctors at 5 o'clock in the morning and was like, hey, why is Christina not able to do this? And once they realized it was Christina, it was like, oh yeah, she can go home, that's fine. And so we started training
with the Nocturnal.
Mhm.
I do dialysis now 4 days a week, and I do it 7.5 hours. And I hook up at night and I go to sleep. We get up in the morning, he unhooks, goes to work, I go back to bed.
Yep.
And so now, like, our days are free again. And so we have even more of that we're living feeling now. And I've been doing that now for just over
3 years now.
3 years.
And the good thing too is that through this process, I got my life back as well. I had to put my career on hold. I had to put everything on hold because we were running the candle at both ends. But now that, one, I have this discipline of dialysis. Dialysis, especially at home, is extremely important to follow every single step 100%. If I don't, she could die. Plain and simple.
Mhm.
And that confidence and that gave me the confidence to start applying for more jobs and stuff like that. And actually, during this time of doing Nocturnal, I actually got an engineering job now. So instead of hanging off an aircraft, I actually tell people how to hang off the aircraft and how to perform the job. So I got a desk job now, and I credit that to the discipline of dialysis.
It really did. It gave him confidence, and it kind of he just kind of flourished with it once we found that right fit. And that's what we tell people is keep searching until you find that right fit.
Yeah, and we just started posting videos. We joked that I'm microfied dialysis because the nurses will show you a certain way, and of course, follow your team, follow the advice of your doctors.
We show you just how to make
I
it
show you
easier.
how I do it and how we navigate life and how we, how we do it with pets, how we do it with kids, how we do it with grandkids,
One really cool thing is almost 2 years ago, we had a grandbaby.
Yep.
And I'm telling you guys, like, when I was 22, they told me my life expectancy was 6 to 7 years. And grandma was not in my vocabulary. It was never going to happen for me. And I am a grandma now. And it's all because I learned how to start asking the questions for myself. And I started learning what my kidneys did and how they benefited me.
And
that's why when we went to AAKPs,
we actually got an award for our group. Our group exploded. It's like 15,000 people now. And we got an award for
best support
group of the year. And that's actually when we bumped into this company called Renadyl. And it was this medicine that, because as a dialysis patient or a kidney patient, there is so much going on in your body. You're constipated beyond belief one day. You're I hate to say it, but diarrhea the other day you're just going back and forth, and trying to find this.
People don't realize that dialysis, you're dehydrated, and so these intestines, things will move through because you've got so much fluid pushing things through. And so when you're dehydrated all the time, you're not liquidy in there anymore. You don't have things moving. And so with me, I have abdominal adhesion on top of that. And so when I heard that there was a probiotic, there was a multivitamin and a fiber pill that were truly made for me, a kidney patient, that's when I was like, why has this not been done before? And how did I not hear about this earlier? And I need it now.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about the multivitamin is one, it has no phosphorus and no potassium, which is huge because you have to watch that stuff
Yep.
really well.
And when you're on dialysis, if your potassium goes too high or too low, you're gonna have a heart attack. And so that's something that you really need to pay attention to. And I've always thought when I take my multivitamin, I've always thought, oh, I hope it's not too much, and it's just like a hope and a prayer. And now I know there's no potassium or phosphorus in there, so I don't have to worry about it. And yes, I am nocturnal, so I don't have a diet restriction at all that I have to worry about. But I do like knowing that these medications are giving me what I need as a kidney patient.
Yeah, and we've traveled all over the country. We now show people how to travel. We've been to DC, what, a dozen times,
Yeah.
speaking to Congress, fighting for more rights for dialysis patients, kidney patients, and it's simple things like, just so, we, like I said, we travel everywhere, we document everything, and what my main job is just to make a laugh.
And
And
Yep.
so
honestly, there were times with traveling where we would travel somewhere and I was in so much pain in my gut that it was like, hey, Mike, can you hold this on your own? Because I am hurting way too much.
yeah.
And anytime something's holding me back like that, I am like, where's the solution? I need something. And I really did. I went out and I bought all different probiotics. And I have to tell you, you have to get this approved by your doctors when you start probiotics or
Mhm.
multivitamins. You've got to get approved what you're taking. And I hate that. I hate having to get everything approved. And so to know these are formulated, and yes, of course, I run it past my doctor because that's what I do. But I know that these are made for me and my situation. And so it gives me such peace of mind.
Yeah, and just the energy alone that she has, that multivitamin gives her quite a bit of energy. The probiotic, it keeps her pretty much regulated with
Yep.
the intestine stuff, and then the
Got my
fiber. Yeah,
bottle right
exactly.
here.
And
It's
it's one of those that we always make sure we have it now because it has helped that much. And especially as a kidney patient going on what, 30 years now, she's tried absolutely every single medicine out there.
Mhm.
And I have seen just in the last year the big difference of how peppy she is, how much energy she has, and just how much better she's feeling. So
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
it
fan.
makes a difference.
I discovered this. My renal dietitian recommended Renadyl to me, as well as a renal multivitamin, and I had to learn. Or actually, let me back up a little bit. One of the most important things I've heard you guys talk about, and I agree 100%, and it's something that I hope to instill in others, is you have to be your best advocate because you are your best advocate. You have to ask the questions. You have to push your doctors. You can't just wait, just sit on the sidelines
Can't
and
go and just fall asleep.
exactly.
we
And if
kind
they
of have a
say
saying
no,
that
ask them why.
Oh,
see, and we actually have a saying that don't tell me I can't, show me how I can.
Yep.
Because what is the point of doing all this dialysis stuff if you're not going to be out living, if you're not going to be experiencing life? That you hear all of these stories of how miserable people are in this kidney failure dialysis community. And it's like, why are you doing this if you're not going to be living, having fun? Having the time of your life. That's why you're doing all this to prolong your life.
and I
Yep.
absolutely love that we do have this support group now because I feel like there are so many things out there that are misleading and that you really don't know what's okay and what's not.
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
I really feel like having the assurity of knowing this is actually helping my body instead of causing harm for me to find out down the road.
Yep.
I like that so
see,
much.
and we tell everybody, get online and do some studying. Be an advocate for yourself and join a support group. I don't care which one you join. I like mine. I think ours is great, but I don't care which one you join because you think you're alone through this process. You think you're the only person experiencing, sexual frustrations, body frustrations, all of this stuff. And especially on the group, you can get on there, ask a question. And the cool thing is I can find hundreds and hundreds of people that are going through the exact same thing as you.
Yep.
It's like you were saying with the medicine and asking your team, little like I said, the biggest thing is finding that multivitamin that had no phosphorus and no
Hmm.
potassium. That was
Got my
just
bottle of
absolutely amazing to me.
right here
Yeah,
too.
it really is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing if it does have potassium or phosphorus, because they don't
Sometimes
they
it's
don't
not even
tell you.
listed. Yeah.
You have to do some digging to find that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. And you guys have created an entire library of videos. I was watching so many of them. You talk about like, hey, here's how to prepare for this. Here's our bag and what we put in there. Here's how we do this. It's so helpful. And as a kidney patient, I've never gone on dialysis, and my goal is to hopefully never get there, but you never know. Um, and there's so much you can learn. And while I do appreciate all the large kidney organizations, they don't focus on the education in a way that's easy for us patients to consume it and to understand it. They kind of follow the nurse's way. Here's how your nurse would show you to do it,
Exactly.
like you mentioned. And well, yeah, that's the official way to do it, but it doesn't. Life is busy, things happen. And like you were talking about connecting your cable, putting your pinkies together and doing that, that could probably help everybody, not just those who can't see very well. But even if I was on dialysis, that sounds like a great tip to make sure I'm connecting it correctly every single time. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of like with this storm, this huge storm that's hitting the whole United States,
mhm.
some storms that nobody has experienced. It, I had someone reach out to me yesterday or the day before and ask me to show a video of how I'll power backup generator system. And, it's just little things like that of just showing the everyday process of how we do all of this.
And I think
Yeah,
sometimes just seeing visually how someone else has set things up and what someone else is doing, it gets your mind going, oh, how could I make that work into my life?
Mhm.
And so I think like I didn't realize that us putting videos and showing our little cheats were going to help people. And it was so shocking to me when people were like, hey, wait, how do we do this? How do we do this?
Somebody asked us to do a video on Nocturnal and it's a setup. So I did this big, long, detailed video. It was like an hour and a half of showing every step, every process.
mhm,
And everybody loved it, but there were also a couple comments going, that's way too much.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can't
want
do
to
all
do that.
that.
And I was like, okay, cool, awesome. Tomorrow I'm going to show you how I do it in 10 minutes. And I did a follow-up video the following day doing the same exact thing, but showing how we do it because
mhm.
it's about second nature now. And just showing this is an extremely complicated process. It is a life and death thing when you take it home, but you can do it effectively and do it healthy.
And I always like to tell people it's just like getting a new job. When you get a new job, it's never comfortable in the beginning. You always kind of have to kind of work out your kinks. And once you find your system, you fly and you
Yep.
flourish. And it's the same thing with home. Will it be easy? No, 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 it won't be. But will it be worth it? Yes. You will, one, become more of an advocate on your own because you become more active in your own care. You start realizing, okay, that's what this number means. That's what this means. And you start realizing, hey, I got to watch this. I got to do this. And you become a more active member in your care team.
And
And there are a
Yep.
lot of times where, to be honest, with in center, you go and you just fall asleep and you have your care team tell you what to do. It's
yeah,
not a conversation.
and doing this, when she crashed into dialysis, I did too. I have no medical background at all. And we kind of joke that if a dumb mechanic and a blind chick can do this, anybody can. And that's the thing is you don't need a PhD to do all of this.
And I think
Yep.
like I think the whole think outside the box, like when this first happened and I was going through all of this and I was taking my anti rejections, I was still dealing a lot with my vision changing and different things like that. And so my mom literally took a piece of paper and she would write down the medication name and she would tape the pill to the paper. And so she would take all the pills on the paper. And so I would take that paper and I would read the name in big print. So I would memorize my names and I'd take the pills. And so we did it that way because I couldn't see enough to sort my pills out. And you've got so
Yep.
many pills, you become a pharmacy overnight. And so just simple things like that. My mom taped them to a paper just so I knew what it was and I knew how to take it. Just start thinking just randomly. Little things like that, they matter. So just give yourself little shortcuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that in your
Ah.
videos you blend in, and I try to do this too, some humor so that you're watching them and you're like, hey, this is kind of funny, and I'm learning something. And that's a cool way to do that. And probably the one that I like the most, I'm gonna bring it up because I like it for multiple reasons, is the one where you were asking Michael, can we get another dog? And in the video, it's like, no, you can't get
Speaking of the
another dog. And the camera pans over, and there you are with 2 dogs. There's
Oh,
Moose.
speaking of, so everybody knows my Moosey. I don't post pictures of him nearly as much anymore now that he doesn't go with me. But this is my baby boy. Come here, Khaleesi. And he now has a little best friend. Her name is Khaleesi. Come here. She's not coming. Come here.
She was on camera
She's like,
earlier when
I
we were
know,
just
she's
starting.
camera shy. She really was. She ran up the stairs.
So why don't you tell them why Moose isn't a
So that's kind of a side story. So Moose is no longer my service dog, and everyone asked me why. What is
Well,
it?
you don't.
Retired
Yeah.
him. I retired him really early in his service animal service animal life, I guess. But since I have been doing Nocturnal, I've been able to drink more fluids. I found out what my disease is. I got diagnosed. I have C3G, and what that disease is normally there's a mutation in your body. Whenever you get injured, instead of your body healing, it actually attacks itself. And normally it's in the bloodstream, and so it actually pokes holes through your kidneys, and that's how you lose your kidneys. And so they let me know I have this disease, but I have a strain of it that's never been seen before.
Of course.
Ooh.
So I have a mutation in my body that's attacking my body, but I don't know where it is. And so with Nocturnal, I was able to start drinking more water. And with abdominal adhesion, I started going in and we started working on my scar tissues, breaking them down. And I learned so much about how to maintain your scars and make sure like how you take care of them and break them down so they don't build up over time. And by doing this, it is actually my abdomen has slowly, it was so angry at me for so long, but it started kind of, I noticed I was feeling a difference. And so I had a couple surgeries that I found out my scar tissue was causing a lot of damage. So I ended up kind of coming to the conclusion that I think I have my diseases with my scar tissue. I think I'm overdeveloping scar tissue. And after I'd been doing Nocturnal for about a year and a half, me and Mike were up camping one day, and in the morning I woke up and I stepped out of the trailer. And at that point, my vision, I couldn't tell the difference between green and blue. They were the same color to me. And I looked up in the trees, and it was like someone flipped a switch, and my vision was better. It was like the world was in neon. I saw like
Wow.
7 shades. I saw like 7 shades of green in the trees. And since then, my vision has slowly been improving.
And I have apologized for not being more attractive. So, but it is what it is.
And
You make
I
up
kind
for
of
it with your
think,
kindness. There you go.
Exactly. It's personality.
hey, I see enough to know he's gorgeous.
If you guys don't know what her eyesight is, it's if you look at the sun and then you look down and you have that black spot. That's what she has. It's no central vision.
Yeah,
So.
anything I look directly at is black.
Yeah.
But it's slowly starting to get more and more clear. And I think I have a scar tissue issue in between my eyes. And I think it's just scar tissue buildup. And I think if I break it down enough, then I might be able to see it again.
So yeah,
Hey,
Moose is retired. He's gotten very, very, very fat and lazy. So
Yeah.
that's
and he had to
hey,
get a
that's what
friend.
we all
So
do when
that's
we
when we had to get the other
retire.
one.
It's you get to
Exactly.
enjoy
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Now, a question for you, going
Yeah.
back
It
to Renadyl,
honestly,
because you mentioned it. Um, how did you learn about it? Because I learned about it from my renal dietitian, and then I went to my doctor, and he said, "Yeah, it's a probiotic. You know, it's good for gut health. Inflammation's a huge issue. It can help with that. Give it a try if you're, you know." He saw no issues, and I've been on it since 2018, back when my kidney function was much lower than where it is today. But can you tell me how did you learn about it, and can you
Well,
how
we
do you
were
feel
we were
being on it, using it?
we were in last November. We were in Texas at AAKP's patient conference, and they had some booths, and Renadyl had one of the booths. So we got some samples. Honestly, we just threw them in the bag. Not
Mhm.
even thinking too much about it. We got home, started looking at the stuff.
I started taking them.
Well, yeah, and we started taking them, and I actually reached out. Instead of asking nurses and all that stuff, I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk to the CEO of the company, and that's when I reached out. And I was
You and
like,
I are
hey,
so
I want to
similar.
know every single thing about this. And so yeah, we she started taking it then, and we quickly noticed of just how much better she was feeling, just the gut issues, everything.
And that's what, like, hearing you say you've been on it so long, I'm excited to see what this does for me in the future because I have not been on it that long. And so I'm excited to share with everyone how this helps my journey. And I really think a lot of people say, like, oh, how did you make it through it? Or how did you get through that? And I think Renadyl is one of those that I had no idea I was going to find that in the future. And so I could have quit because my abdomen was so bad and I was just having so many issues. And I could have let that be what ended it, but instead I kept pushing through. And then you find something that helps. And so, yes, you may feel like you're at a point where you just can't keep going, but you have no idea what is around that corner. Yeah. You have no idea what's waiting for you. And so when I found that Renadyl, it really was like, oh my gosh,
and
I've
that
been making for so long.
and that's what you need to do is when you see some motivational people like Christina, some advocates that are out there that are documenting, looking at her, you would not think she's a dialysis patient, and that
100%.
is your goal.
She's got so much
Yeah.
energy, and hearing, going online, seeing all the things you guys do
Yep.
on dialysis, to me, it was even eye-opening. It's like, wow.
It's life is short, and I feel like that amount of time that my life was on pause, I it was so hard watching everyone else live and experience life. And so I literally every single day I live it like it's going to be my last because I've lived my life since I was 22 feeling like it might be my last.
And that's kind of my philosophy is, God forbid, if something happens to her tomorrow, she's going out with a smile and having the time of her life. So that's the goal. That's the goal. And if you can feel better doing it, even better.
And so
Yep.
I have kind of a theory that I live by. And when I was in dialysis, I was living to do dialysis. I now do dialysis to live. And that's the difference for me in center and home dialysis and finding the right medications and finding these multivitamins and these medications that just have relieved so many different issues. Like there are things out there and they're possible.
Yep.
Yep.
You just have
Now,
to ask questions, and so.
yeah. Now, for our audience here, where can they go online to learn more, to see these videos, to follow you guys, to see that life on dialysis isn't the end of life? You guys are living
Well,
adventures.
Well, I now, I post like a 14-year-old teenager now. I'm posting everywhere. We're on all social medias. So if you just hashtag blind chick living or living on dialysis, you can find us everywhere. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We've got a private Facebook group, uh, TikTok, you name it, we're out there. If you just Google blind chick living, you're gonna find videos of us.
And I just want to throw it out there. Blind Chick Living was his idea, not mine.
That's okay.
Hey, it's a unique name and it works. All right. Well, that's
It
pretty much
certainly
the
does.
end of our time for tonight. I want to thank you so much for sharing your amazing story. And it is so inspirational hearing. There's so many inspirational things. The whole dating thing and how you met and that your kids got along great, fantastic start, a wonderful working together, the caregiver relationship. She needs this, and you're both being proactive about this. You're not letting the doctors tell you no. And if they say no, you're asking why, to make certain it is no. And you're finding it's most of the time it's not no, and you're doing all these great things. And I hope this inspires others out there who are worried. What will life be like on dialysis? This is a
It's not a death
perfect
sentence.
example.
Yep.
Yeah.
And reach out anytime. I'm answering emails, messages all the time. So if you are scared, which this is a scary thing, reach out.
Yeah, don't
Reach
be
out.
alone. And thank you for having us. It's been such an amazing opportunity just to be able to share what this has done for me, because truly people are truly wanting answers, and to be able to throw this out there and say, hey, this helped me, go get it.
Yep.
It's
And like I said, we travel all over the United States. I post where we're going. Next time we're in your neck of the woods, we'll get dinner and coffee. So
Hey, I'm right outside Detroit. If you're within
yeah.
a 2-hour drive, I will certainly be there.
all right. All right, we'll plan for it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everyone. Please share this video. Let's help spread their story, spread the hope. Okay? Life on dialysis doesn't mean not being able to do things. You can have a wonderful, great life. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.